Hey, what's up guys, Tony here, and we're watching some more V8 supercars. And as we go green, what I want to say is what's nice about iRacing, I guess, I'm being very sarcastic about this, is the fact that it's really no different from GT3 to V8 supercars. People on iRacing will be lunatics, and I mean, I guess that's okay. I don't know. It makes for an exciting start. You know, this is the first time in a long time that I've had to do a standing start, and so it's a nice change of pace. I'll say that. There's something to be said for patience in standing starts. So anyways, we've now seen about a half of a lap of pretty much chaos, and this was my fourth race this week, and it was a race that was going very well until it wasn't, and so you'll see that in this race. So what I want to talk about is I want to quickly go over the first three races that I had this week, because this one I think it's not the best positioning that I had. I didn't finish in the strongest position, but I think overall it was the best experience and the best driving that I showed, because as I said in my practice video, I was having a hard time with my throttle control, and I was also having a hard time with my brakes, and I just couldn't get the braking down. And so I also mentioned that I wanted to buy a set of Fanatec Club Sport V2 pedals, and so it was I think literally a day after I posted that first practice video that I actually decided to do it, because I was practicing some more and I just was locking up the brakes, and no matter what I was doing to my brake bias, I was locking up. I mean, it wasn't like I was locking up a little bit, it was like I was locking up really bad, like all the time. And I was barely touching the pedal on my G27 set. It just was like barely touch the pedal and my brakes would lock up, and it was so freaking frustrating because it's like I was just like touching. I was like it was so gingerly touching the pedal, and the brakes were locking up. And this was even after, like, I got better with the second setup. Once I got this newer setup, the guy Mitch's setup, the Torque Inc. setup that he posted, it got a little bit better, but still it was happening. So anyway, so I pulled the trigger and I bought some pedals because I've been wanting something, you know, like I've been in this now for like a year and a half or so, and like I can feel myself going down that route, like, you know, or that road where I want to pick up, you know, newer, you know, nicer gear. And so I said, okay, you know what, I've got a little bit of spare money in my savings account, so I'm gonna go ahead and splurge on these pedals. And I have to admit that at first I was pretty damn disappointed. I just, you know, I wasn't pleased with them. I just couldn't. They just felt dead. That's pretty much the best way I can describe it. Is there was this dead zone in the pedals, and I tried adjusting the pedals to be looser so that way I wouldn't have to push so hard to get any feedback, and that actually was the opposite way that I should have gone. And so I ended up tightening them up really, really tight, and now I've got it to a point where, and I tightened up the throttle as well, so I got that tighter as well. I might actually want to tighten up the throttle a little bit more. I just haven't gone down to my garage to pick up a wrench yet to tighten them up more, but I've now gotten used to them. It took me a couple of races to get used to them. This is, I think, my second race with the pedals. And by this point I felt really comfortable, and the best part is that there's a pressure that when I'm pushing when I push down hard enough, I can feel it stop, and once that's about 75% brake power, and if I push more than that, then that's when I'm locking up. So it's nice to have a stop, like, you know, there we go, I'm gonna stop at this point, and if I really have to push it to get that little bit more brake power, but then I'm running the risk of locking up. So that's cool to have that sort of a stop in there, and I'm pretty sure the more I use them, the more they'll wear in, and that like rigid stop will go away. It'll probably be replaced by a little bit smoother of a transition, because, you know, springs will wear out and oil, I guess everything just sort of like has to settle in. and I've gotten used to the throttle a little bit more than I was. It's something that is, I still find myself reverting back to G27 practices while I'm racing, because that's generally what I do. Is like in practice, I'll just go balls to the walls, and I will go for consistency, kind of, but I'm just going to see how fast can I actually get around this track. And I had a couple of 134.0, I think it was 134.021, and I was like, oh my god, I'm on the cusp of 133, this feels amazing. The problem though is that I never run those times in a race. I'm very conservative when I race, because especially in a car that I'm not familiar with and on a track that I'm not really that good at. There are certain corners on this track that I'm not good at. So anyways, I feel myself getting used to the pedals, and so I know some of you guys in the last video were asking because I had mentioned it, and so that's what I've got. I'm not a big like unboxing person. I don't like do the unboxing videos and be like, oh, here, look at this cool shit that I bought, and here's what's inside of the box. That just doesn't, you know, work for me. But yeah, so like I mentioned in that video, and now I'm telling you guys now, I picked up the Club Sport V2 pedals, and after initial sort of like meh period, I'm pretty stoked with them. I really am. I can see myself, like I said, fine-tuning them a little bit more, especially in the throttle. Might mess with the brake pedal a little bit more, but it definitely has changed the way that I feel the car's throttle and braking control. Like I feel like I can control the throttle a little bit better. I feel like I can feather the throttle, like I can put that little bit of throttle on and not be worried about spinning out or whatever, you know. It feels a little bit more solid to me. So I might be able to go and try, you know, get on like IndyCar, like again, because IndyCar and F1 were two cars that just like I just would always lock up the brakes like every time I was going to stop, because I just put too much pressure into the pedal. And now that I can have that feel, I think I'll be able to do better in other series as well. So anyways, all that being said, what I wanted to say is that race number 1 actually went really well. That was my best position. I think I started in 9th and I finished in 6th. And I think we only had like 12 cars. So I gained I rating and I gained safety rating. It was a good experience. But I made a lot of mistakes. And I don't think I spun out, but I definitely went off track a couple of times. Issues with braking, those are the problems that I was having. Just the same problems I mentioned in my practice video I was experiencing in the race. So that was okay. Race number 2, race number 2 was with the pedals. So race number 2 was with the pedals and with my buddy Tim, and he's actually going to post his perspective of that race online. And I don't know if maybe if you guys want to post, if you want me to post it, I could post it as well, so you can see our perspectives. But I didn't record it live, and so it'll just be a race, and I made a lot of mistakes. That was the first race with the pedals, and I'd practiced with these pedals, but I just wasn't comfortable with them yet. And as a result, I made a lot of mistakes. Tim and I had some pretty close racing during that race. And then the third race I got into was an unofficial race. There was only 4 of us, and I think the guy who placed 3rd or 4th in this race was racing with me, and the guy was like a maniac. Like it was pretty damn, like, you know, like, okay, dude, you can relax for 5 seconds, please. I found myself after a really good battle with the guy, because I was in 2nd place, so it was first and second, we were going at it, and then I finally passed him, so I found myself in the lead. And then probably about, I don't know, lap 14 or something like that, I was going up the hill off turn 3. I was up the hill, and I was approaching, you know, like the main straight, and I caught a little grass, and my car went flying off to the right, and I crashed. So that sucks. And then race 4, which was a couple hours later, which was the largest race I'd been in. I think it was like 24 people or something like that. It was a pretty good size, you know, race, and a pretty good size field. And what was interesting is like I constantly could see like the rest of the field in front of me, so I never once felt like I was totally out of it. You could always see guys, and I think that plays into the nature that this is a really hard car to drive, and that, I mean, you will have the guys who are like running, you know, 130s and 131s, and then you'll have, you know, probably the majority of people, seems like the majority of people are running like 133s, and then you'll have me, you know, in the stragglers in the 134s to 136 range. But it overall, my impressions of this first week are very positive. It sucks to have to wait until like midnight to get a race in with a decent strength of field, and even at that, you might get 12 guys. I was surprised because the race that I'd run at I think it was 8 o'clock, maybe it was 8 and 10. I think that's what it was, 8 and 10. So the race I ran at 8 o'clock my time, like I said, we had I think 5 people registered for the race, and then 4 decided to just run it for SR. But then at 10, it was a full field, which was really nice. And the reason why I was surprised about the 8 o'clock race is because there was like 20 guys in one practice session, and then another 8 in another practice session. And for whatever reason, they opted to not get into that race. And there was a guy in the practice session like, come on, you know, we got 5 guys, like, please, more registration, we need to get this thing official. And he kept begging and begging and begging, and I was the only one that came from the practice session. So that sucks. Like I said in my first thoughts, my first impressions, and I think I've said it a couple times before, this car, although I am finding it a lot more enjoyable to drive than the Ford Falcon, it is still very much a niche series in iRacing. Like, maybe there's this idea, the idea is out there that with the Ford Falcon, with the Holden, this sort of GT3-esque, you know, situation where these 2 different cars are going at each other. I think they're identical, though. I think they're supposed to be identical in all ways except for looks, like NASCAR. But with GT3 car styles, where you got 2 different cars sort of going at it, you know, you got your Ford loyal Ford fans and your loyal Holden fans, you know, I think that might spur some participation. Also, the one thing that I think would spur participation more than anything else is shared setups. And I'm seeing that now. When I would look into the V8 supercars before, all they would have is this setup guide. You know, here's how you set up a V8 supercar. You know, and this is what all this stuff means. Go and do it yourself. And there's a lot of people, and myself included, that just don't have the time. I don't have the time to sit down and make a setup for a car. I mean, it sounds stupid because you know, iRacing requires a lot of time, and it's just like, well, if you don't have the time to learn, then, you know, that's part of the argument. So you don't have the time to learn, then you don't have the time to be fast and all this other crap. But there's a lot of people out there, in my opinion, there are a lot of people out there that are very casual iRacing people, you know, drivers will, like, you know, I'm going to include myself among those. Like, I don't have a lot of time during the week to dedicate myself to. I can dedicate myself to practicing several hours during the week, but I don't have really the time or energy to dedicate to sitting down and figuring out a setup. So I just, you know, kind of like that ignorant driver, you know, I just want to go drive. Let the engineers do the engineering, let them set up the car, and I just want to drive. So just make me a good car. And I mean, in the real world, that doesn't work that way, because the driver's got to be able to tell the engineers, like, hey, this is what's going on with the car, this is what I want different. And people can do that. Like, I can do that. Like, this is what's wrong, and, you know, we should change some things, but I don't exactly know what to change. You know, like, I can fiddle around with the wing, I could fiddle around with the camber, I could fiddle around maybe with the spring rate a little bit, but beyond that, I'm starting to get out of my depth, because the automotive experience that I have is in maintenance as a mechanic. So I know how to work on that stuff. I just don't know theoretically what changes do to what, like, how the changes affect the performance of the car. It would be nice to learn, and maybe when I'm finally done with my grad program, then I can dedicate myself to doing that. But as of right now, I just don't have the time. And I think, like I said, having setups might spur participation. So it's nice to see that people are starting to share their setups, because I think people, those who have been participating in the V8 Supercar Series, are tired of either unofficial races, or, you know, races not going official, or low participation races. You know, you get like 12 guys. So having fields of 20 is really exciting. So hopefully people realize that, you know, you're not a professional V8 supercar driver, you know, that you're going, it's okay to share your setups. I mean, I can see the teams that are running, you know, the teams are not going to want to share their setups, but individuals who have pretty solid setups, I don't think there should be any reason why you can't share a setup, you know? Like, I think it'll help participation, especially since I see Europeans are starting to get on board. They're like, oh my god, you know, we should do this V8 supercar thing. So it would be nice to have, you know, full participation throughout the day instead of at these, you know, random times at night. For me, especially. I mean, it's not that bad for me. 8, 10 o'clock and midnight. I mean, I'm still up. I can run at midnight. That's no big deal. But it would be one thing if it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, nope, that's not happening for me. So, anyways, that's kind of my gist on participation on the series so far. What can I say about this track? There are several things about this track that still haunt me, and they've haunted me since my Mazda days. Like this last corner right here, it just, I don't know, I just can't, I don't get through it with enough speed. Turns 1 and turn 2, I'm starting to get the hang of, and you'll see in this race, it's just the one thing about me, and I think will be the next topic I guess I'll talk about now, is inconsistency right now. I have a really inconsistent driving. This track has always been, for me, but it's been a difficult track. But with a new car and a new series, the inconsistencies really come out. You know, like it's like my lap times. You'll see the lap times sort of dart all over the place, and I just don't have it. You know, I just don't feel it. So I know hopefully as I go on, I'll become more consistent by the end of the season. That's my hope. But as of right now, I'm pretty inconsistent. The other thing that I know this for a fact is in a new series and a new car, I'm really, not really timid, but I am more timid than I think I need to be. There's probably a couple, there are going to be a couple opportunities in this race that I could have had to sort of try to force a pass, but because I'm afraid of locking up and I'm afraid of, you know, rear-ending someone, because rear-ending someone for me is something like that's totally avoidable. And you can all you have to do is pay attention to what the guy's doing in front of you and kind of see how they react from lap to lap, and you can avoid rear-ending somebody, especially if you're checking, you know, your braking zones in areas that are passing zones. You're like, okay, where do they brake in this passing area? You know, can I get in and pass him or her? And you can do that and pay attention to what's going on and avoid rear-ending somebody. So one of the things that I sort of pride myself on is not rear-ending somebody, and that's one of the reasons why you'll see, you know, if you're watching this race and you're going, oh god, he's really timid, why don't you pass right here? And that's because I just don't want to wreck somebody. You know, I don't want to wreck out. I don't want to wreck somebody else out. So I'd rather wait for a better opportunity, a more clear opportunity. So anyways, that's pretty much it. So this week so far, I have learned a lot. You know, I've got the car control. I think I feel far more solid with the car. The brakes, now that I've got the new pedals and the setup, I feel like the car has got more braking power. Like I feel like I can control this thing and not lock up, even though I do lock up a lot. I get low speed lockups. It's weird. It just seems like low speed lockups are what I get. And my theory is, hopefully I'll get back to my original thought, is you can see me getting a little bit more bold trying to pass this guy. Because I felt like he was holding me up. You know, I'm just like, dude, come on. I'm like, I keep catching up to him, but I can't pass him. That's the other thing. It seems to be hard. Like, passing people in V8 supercars seems to be a difficult thing in general. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Shit. So anyways, like I said, car control, controlling the brakes, not locking up, stuff like that. Oh yeah, that's right, I was talking about low speed lockup. Like, my theory is that I'm on the brakes and the nose of the I almost said aircraft, the nose of the car dips, and you get probably understeer because of that. But when it's down like that, it seems to lock up more. So I found myself like braking hard, and when I start approaching the corner and I start approaching the time where I'm locking up, I try to get off the brake a little bit to let the nose come up. But it doesn't always happen because, you know, I wish I was able to think that clearly when I'm racing. I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, okay, corner to corner sort of mentality. And there was a couple times in this race that I had to tell myself, like ease up, go back on your program, go back on your pace. And I kept telling myself, and I said it out loud too. I was like, get back on your pace, get back on your pace, get back on your pace. Like stop overdriving the car. So if it's throttle control, brakes, handling, overdriving is the other thing that I need to work on. I feel that I know at times I'm overdriving the car and I'm totally wrecking these tires. And that's something that I'll have to learn how to be fast and be, I guess, a little easier on the car, a little easier on the tires. So those are the things that I've learned so far this week, and those are the things I'll be working on with, I think it's Road America coming up. Road America, Road Atlanta, one of the two. I'll have to check the schedule, but it's one of the roads. I think it's Road America, though, which, if it is, I'm really looking forward to that track because that is one of my favorite tracks. There's a handful of tracks that I just absolutely adore, and I like that track a lot. So, anyways, guys, I'm gonna leave it here. There's probably another 15 minutes or so left of the race. I suggest you stick through it. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention is that I started in 17th. I got up to, right now I'm in 12th, and I'll fight my way up to 11th, and then you'll see what happens at the end. Like I said, it was a good race until it wasn't, and my comments about not wanting to rear end someone, they come back into play here in the later part of the race, unfortunately. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of the race, and I look forward to your feedback in the comment section about what are the things that you might have seen that I was doing right or doing wrong. It would be nice to have a sprinkling of positive feedback as well as criticism. So be gentle in the comment section. I really appreciate the feedback that I've gotten so far in the other video that I posted, the practice video, because I did put some of that into play for sure. And more than anything else, it'll just be me getting used to the car and trying to take the advice that I get from you guys and apply it in race situations. So anyways, guys, again, thanks for everything so far, and I look forward to your feedback in this video as well. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I shall talk to you guys later.